Hello everyone, welcome to Pain the Podcast. If you're this many episodes in, then you know the drill by now. We're going to start with a fact about each of us so you can get to know us a little bit better. And we'll tell you something we've learnt about ourselves this week as well. But first, let's introduce our guest, shall we?
Yes, indeed. Today we are joined by Chris Bridgeford, who set up the Scottish chronic pain group Affa Sair, which means awfully sore in Scots. It started out as a Facebook support group and it's now got over 800 members. It has worked as a charity and sat on advisory boards about chronic pain for the Scottish Government. And they also set up a first of its kind social prescribing scheme for people with chronic pain in the northeast of Scotland that I had the privilege of working with Chris on as a trustee. So I'm really glad that we've got him on the show today. So Chris, with that brief introduction, would you like to tell us your fact about yourself?
Hi guys, I certainly would. Facts about myself. I have permission to walk my flock of sheep along the high street at any time I see fit. Ooh. And the reason I can do that is I was made what's called a burgess of the town a few years back for some community work I do in the town, or did in the town in those days. So it's only an honorary position now, but it was an actual role in the Royal Borough of Forres, which is where I come from. It was an actual role. We also had to actually patrol the borders of the town on our horses to prevent intruders from coming into the town.
I'm guessing, Chris, there's not been any times when you've had to, or had the opportunity to walk your hypothetical flock of sheep, but
no.
What time would you have felt best? Has there ever been a time when you really wished you had a flock of sheep to walk through the town?
I would have gone at 5 a.m.
Yeah. Any time the leader of the Scottish Tories at the time was in his office, I would have quite liked that event.
I think that's a good option, yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Josh, shall we get your fact about yourself this week?
Yeah, so mine's a bit more light-hearted, but the fact about myself is I've been... Well, do you know Super Mario?
Mm-hmm. Not personally.
What does he say? What is his famous catchphrase?
It's a me!
So, it's a me, Mario, yeah?
Yes.
It's actually not.
Oh, yes.
It's Sumi. It's Sumi, Mario.
Because it's Japanese.
It's Japanese for super. It's Sumi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's not...
That's not a fact about you, but I appreciate that.
It's something I learned this week that I was just sort of like, wow. So, like, the entire generation of people are just completely saying Mario's catchphrase is completely wrong.
Wow.
Including myself until now.
Amazing. So your fact is that you don't say Super Mario catchphrase is wrong anymore?
Correct. That is my fact about myself.
Don, what fact about you?
Well, my fact is actually about me.
Is it about something that we can see, but only on Patreon?
No, so my fact is that I'm the kind of person that would comfort watch a show, or most shows actually, most sitcoms, and I like to just re-watch the same kind of show multiple times. Do you want to guess how many times I've watched Parks and Recreation?
12.
4.
Ding ding ding! Joe is right. I've watched it 4 times. I've watched Archer about 5 times. Yeah, no idea why I do this. Just keep going back to the same good old thing.
So I'm the same though. I've rewatched like The American Office multiple times.
Great shows.
It's the usual Star Trek for me and my wife.
Oh yeah.
I've never done Star Trek.
We're very big Trekkies.
Who's the best captain? That's my question.
It's not the original.
Isn't that Doctor
series.
Who?
No, stupid boy. No, it's very much
Kirk Picard, isn't it? Let's face
modern
it.
series. The Strange New Worlds, the latest derivation of it, is just fantastic. It's coming back next January or so, I hope. Just can't wait for that. It's brilliant. Really, really good stuff.
So there you go.
And yeah, we watch them time and time and time again. You know, we know the dialogue off by heart. You know, we can quote things to each other. And, yeah.
It sounds
Very
like me
sad.
editing this podcast.
What about you, Joe?
My fact about myself this week is that I have a small piece of my right hip missing naturally. It was just never there. So they did an X-ray on my hip back when I was about 17, and they found that a small piece of my right hip is just not there.
Do you have something else instead? There?
No.
Is that why you used to walk with one slipper on?
No, that's... well, to be fair, my leg length discrepancy did supposedly have a part to play with that, but also there was a mild scoliosis as well. So they might have all been linked. But yeah, small piece of my hip was missing. Either way, there's not much more to say about that. Chris, what have you learned about yourself this week?
I've learned about myself that at the grand old age of 65, I decided I don't particularly enjoy being in my hometown anymore, which is sad because I loved it, absolutely loved it. But we were just out and about today to visit my father in the care home, and we went up the high street and we just thought, there's nothing here anymore. There's just none of our old haunts are there. There's hardly any shops open. It's just dying a death. There's absolutely no banks, which is where I used to work.
Yeah.
Both of us worked. There's just nothing. So I'm afraid small towns like this are dying fast, which is all very sad.
If we can get you to come to the north of England to be closer to us, that'd be great.
Yeah.
It's also happening here, though.
But at least we'd be together when it dies.
Yeah.
It is a real shame because it is beautiful.
It is. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it doesn't help. It's, autumn now and it's dark and,
Yeah, and freezing cold.
Yeah.
a freezing cold.
Chris and I worked together. Chris was the chairman of Affa Sair, and I was one of the trustees. And I was one of the trustees for about 3 years, and worked together with him for another year before that. And I would get reports every year from Chris. It would be maybe like 25 degrees up in the north of England. We'd be having a beautiful day, and Chris is like, "It's a nice day today. It's 12."
Yeah, true.
Right, Josh, what have you learned about yourself this week?
Well, actually, I was going to say something else, but Chris has just sparked me to think about something else that I've learned about myself, which is I'm actually quite homesick. I miss Yorkshire. I've Yorkshireman born and bred, but after university, sort of haven't lived in Yorkshire since 2015. Yeah, and coming home, seeing family and friends and what have you, it's just, I want to come back.
It's in me blood.
It's in my blood.
That and snooker. Don, what have you learned about yourself?
I've learnt that I enjoy climbing, as in
Enjoy what?
climbing.
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 I don't know why I really enunciated on the B there. There's no, I don't know why I did that, but no, I tried bouldering,
Yeah.
for the first time, and I loved it.
Where did you climb? You can give some.
I climbed in London, Parsons Green in London, with a few friends, and for the first time I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I'd get to they have different colours for different levels and abilities, and I got to like a fairly good colour, I think, for a first timer.
Nice.
What's a good colour?
I don't know,
It
but
varies between centres, I think, doesn't it?
yeah, so different companies do it differently, but they have kind of a code to translate it to
Actual
the
climbing
tournament
level, yeah.
standards, And
We've got these things called mountains up where I live.
Oh, do they also have really colourful little plastic things on them?
Well, no, there's nothing plastic about them. They're good for the environment.
Okay.
They're quite nice, they've been there a long
They're
time.
very sustainable.
Yeah.
They are.
Quite like the Monroes, they're nice.
Yeah. I was really, I didn't expect to like it, but I did.
Good stuff. And this week I learned about myself that I am incredibly susceptible to parking tickets.
Oh no.
I got 2 parking tickets in the same week, and one of them was a traffic violation and one of them was parking ticket. I went down to visit Josh in the southeast of England, and Google Maps directed us, and neither of us apparently used our eyes, and I drove in a bus lane, which I didn't tell Josh about. I thought I'd keep it as a surprise. On the first day when I was there, we went out in the car, and we drove in a bus lane apparently.
What was that?
And I thought, I opened the letter and I was like, this is bullshit, I definitely didn't. And then it had a video clip and I was like, oh, that is my car driving in a bus lane, and it does say bus lane on the floor.
Wow.
So there you go. So that was one thing. And then McDonald's in Manchester, in Harper Hay, I just have to say, and I'm sorry if this gets libel attraction for us, you bastards. You horrible, horrible bastards. They have a parking thing that says for McDonald's customers only, right? But it doesn't say that until you're in the car park. So we were already in, and Dee went, oh, it says for McDonald's customers only. And I was like, oh shit, okay, I'll just go and get something anyway. But because I was the driver and had left the car, they ticketed me. And so it said in the fine print on the signs, on one sign in the car park, so there's multiple signs, but only one of them has the fine print, and it says, the driver can't leave the car. So just imagine if you've gone to McDonald's on your own, what you have to do, just scream.
Seriously?
They're back! Yeah.
So
they ticketed me £50, the thieving bastards.
But aren't you a customer if you're going?
Yes!
I don't understand.
The passenger had to be the one that went out. That was in the small print. But it was only on one sign at the other side of the car.
I wouldn't pay it. I'd dispute that.
I was furious.
Is there a certain parking space for drivers only?
No, there's no other parking spaces. It's all for McDonald's customers. So it's part of a retail park, but the retail park has no parking. It's only for McDonald's customers. So it's clearly there to bait you because there's loads of other shops you could go to. So yeah, no parking tickets ever in my life. And then two traffic violations in a week. So that's £85 I'm never going to see
Very
again.
impressive.
I'd fight it.
Yeah.
At least it was only 50. It
And
could have been
35.
worse.
It could have been worse, but both of them was because I paid early. Otherwise, one of them would have been 100 and one of them would have been 70. So, yeah. So I'm not bitter, but I will never be going to Harper Hay McDonald's again, and I will be actively blocking their car park.
Right. So, moving on. So today we're going to talk about social prescribing and its use in chronic pain. Josh, can you tell us a bit more about that?
Social prescribing is the idea of referring people to local, non-clinical services to support them with their health and well-being. This might be a referral to art therapy, gardening, exercise classes, volunteer groups. It could even be financial advice and much, much more. You often have somebody called a link worker who is the person who helps to coordinate these opportunities for you within the community.
So before we dive any deeper, let's ask the question that a lot of you are probably thinking of. What does social life have to do with pain?
Well, there's a lot of research evidence for social life helping people to manage their pain, but I think, obviously we've got Chris here with us today, and I'd like to hear from him directly first. I'm interested, Chris, how has social life helped you over the years to manage your pain?
I think social life, above all, you use as a distraction. I think that's the big thing with pain. And social life or social interaction means you concentrate less on the chronic pain and far more on what you're doing at the moment. It doesn't just mean signing into weekly meetings in a room in the back of a big town hall or something with strangers. Thanks has to be said now to the great leap forward in video conferencing and what we're doing here today, all brought about by COVID. I think it's about the only benefit we got from COVID as a society. These things can be done easily now. And so you can interact socially with people from your own home, which for people like me is a godsend, really. I find it far easier to take part in groups using video conferencing that I never would have attempted before. Another little fact about me is I'm also autistic. I'm subject to depression and I have literally all over debilitating pain. So getting out and about is damn near impossible. Video conferencing has just been great. But when I do get out, it's absolutely marvellous and just banishing the pain completely. I particularly like working with kids and youngsters, young adults, much like yourselves.
Thank you.
I just love doing it. I just find the youngsters, especially those in sort of primary school age, are just brilliant. You know, everything's just taken as seen. You know, there's no ambiguity about them or anything. They're just great. And okay, sometimes I'll jump about, you know, if I have spasms or whatever, and there maybe get "Oh, what's wrong, sir, or mister," or whatever they say. And you explain it to them and that's it. They don't go on about it ever again. They're quite happy. You're not having to, you don't get consolations from them like you do with adults. You know, are you all right? Do you want a cushion? Can you get a drink? Do you want a cup? You know, so there's none of that. The kids just accept it and away you go. So for me, I think working with people like that is really what just banishes the pain. I can do that for maybe 2 or 3 hours and I'm quite happy. Also, to speak a bit about the distraction and dealing with pain, for me, as Joe well knows, I do what's called painting by numbers, not the sort of things you used to do in primary school, but far more intricate ones.
This is very high level, Chris. I've seen some of your work and it's very impressive.
Yeah,
We've got some of his work. Chris paints on it for our house. For the Patreon viewers, I'm just going to grab one and hold it up in front of the camera because it's bloody fantastic. Chris, do you mind if we put some of this on our social media as well so that people can see an example of one of your paintings?
No, that's fine.
Fantastic. You carry on. I'll go and get a painting to show to the camera.
Okay. Yeah, it's something I found a couple of years ago, and I can be in proper agony all day, and I suddenly start doing that, and just by the very concentrating so much on the small blocks and things, the pain just filters away. So I think, as I was saying, you know, I'm quite subject to depression. I like my own company, which I think we all appreciate from time to time. So it's strange for me to go out and meet people, but it does suddenly just make you realise what you're missing by staying in. And I think that feeling of well-being really helps with the pain as well.
Yeah. And I think it's also, like you mentioned before, it's having these kinds of events online kind of helps bridge the gap that some people might find where they might be feeling a bit too anxious to go out in person, and so just meeting online virtually can just have them just introducing the entire concept to them can be really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Like going back on that as well, Chris. Like I play D&D. I've mentioned it to our listeners already, but I have a group. We used to meet in person, but being doctors, we all move about. But through using like Zoom or what have you, we've been able to keep it going. So I've been able to have that weekly sort of social aspect, which has helped me, and that has helped with pain. I think I completely agree about the distraction helping manage pain. Specifically when you've got something to look forward to as well.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Chris and I actually met through a research project way back during COVID, and we met online. And it's funny because Chris and I knew each other for 3 years before we ever met in person and developed a really good friendship. And I think I'd always been a little bit sceptical about meeting people online and whatever. But when you've met through that kind of joint hobby like D&D, or like in Chris's and I's case, like advocacy work, it was a really excellent way to be able to build a friendship. And it felt completely natural meeting Chris in person for the first time. It wasn't like, oh, this is so strange. It was just, completely normal. It really took away so many barriers. To have had that time to get to know each other online. Yeah.
I think a lot of people seem to think all you have to do for chronic pain is take a pill and it'll go away, but of course it never does. And the big problem, people will hear doctors say, it'll do you good, blah, blah, blah. The pain is felt in your brain, and they hear that as you're imagining it. It's not real, but we know in fact that is where the pain is really felt. But that interaction, I think, with people helps so much better than some pills. Having said that, I still take, I think it's now 37 pills a day.
Wow.
That because I've picked up a few other illnesses along the way. I'm kind of greedy like that. But I think the most benefit comes from the social interaction and dealing with guys like yourself, like, Joe, becoming friends with Joe has made a big difference to me. So it's been great.
It's been a lot more painful since.
Absolutely.
So, Chris, can you tell me a bit more about the work that Affa Sair does in the northeast of Scotland within the community?
I started it originally to try and help people who were isolated, like myself, because I honestly thought I was the only one in the world, really suffering like this. And I just started it as a Facebook group to let other people know they're not alone. And it grew. I think we had 83 people in the first year. And as luck would have it, we also, because of contacts and people I knew in the local health board, we managed to convince NHS Grampian to restart a pain clinic in the local county hospital. Because before that, people had to travel all the way to Aberdeen to see a pain consultant anyway. To put that into context, that was a 150-mile round trip, but with the roads here, it takes about 2 hours to get to Aberdeen from where I live, and 2 hours back. And, that's just far too much for a 20-minute appointment.
Yeah, especially for someone living with pain.
Yes, and especially if you're relying on public transport, then forget it. You have to start really early in the morning to get there for your appointment, and you may be lucky and get back that day, or you may not. It's great. So that's why it started, and it just kind of grew and grew. I began to learn more about chronic pain. I think the Asperger's in me craves information. So I began to read up on it and things, because frankly the GPs knew damn all, about it, especially when I started out in 1978.
Listen back to episode 3.
I was called a liar to my face, quite a few times. These kind of things happen because there's nothing to see, as we know, and that you're just putting it on and things like this. So I just wanted other people to know that, yes, it's real. So that's kind of what Affa Sair was about. Then we tried some real life work, some meetings and things in a local college, which was quite successful. But again, I should have learned from this really, but it became very difficult for me to travel to the next town along to host these meetings and things. So, it couldn't continue. It became more online. And then we met up with Joe, and whoa, things changed. Suddenly,
a terrible influence on him.
It was a well-needed youthful energy, to be honest. And as I say, COVID hit us all, and with that came the video conferencing, and things grew and grew. We would do meetings online, which became quite popular. We had the idea of doing surveys. We did one survey looking at how the barometric pressure affects chronic pain. At that time, people were very sceptical about that, but we did manage to prove that it affects people quite severely, and we've still got that data if someone wants to look at it. Of course, because it's not wasn't done by doctors or clinicians, then but it's not scientifically proven. But in the real world, we know it makes a difference. And then came the thought of doing the social prescribing scheme. I can't remember how that actually came about.
I think Chris and I spoke about, there was a new allotment site that came up near to Chris, and I'd been getting very excited, as I do. I like a project. I've always got a project ongoing, and this was my project with Chris for a good year. I think it gave us many sleepless nights. But we saw that this garden was opening, and I'd seen a load of amazing stuff. We'll mention the Blackthorn Trust later on. I was kind of inspired by them a little bit and thought, why don't we try and do something where we can get people free access to activities in the community? And then, Chris, if you want to carry on, you can tell them how it spiralled.
Yeah, then it spiralled on to not just the allotment. It carried on. We initially wanted to try and have things in the various towns throughout the northeast of Scotland. That soon fell by the wayside because of legacy issues. I think, people from my hometown of Forest don't particularly like people from Elgin, 12 miles along. So, there's all this
Local
legacy issues, the enemy along the road. So you just don't go to things in Elgin. You stay in your hometown. And I presume that's prevalent throughout the country, really, in small communities like ours. But that's the way of the world. We try to do half and half, really. We had half of the activities online and half in real life. We had art therapy in the town hall, but we also combined that with doing crafts as well. There was someone who, a professional artist, who came along and gave us some hints and tips on doing that, and then we had just craft books and things, just if people want to try something, then we made sure we had all the materials for it, and they could try that. Kids were allowed to come, which made made a big difference to the members, because they were able to take their children with them. They weren't, they didn't have to get babysitters or things like that. And it was good, and I enjoyed it, frankly. I mean, I didn't do any craft work, really. I just played with the kids, which was fine. And again, that distracted me. So, I was finding benefit from that as well. We did, I think, probably the second most successful one. I'll come to the first one in a minute, but the second most successful one was definitely the meditation classes, which were done online. And we did them from the famous town in Scotland called Craigellachie, which everyone pronounces Craigellachie. It's actually Craigellachie. It's quite remote, actually, but we did that with a lady who lives in Craigellachie but comes from Michigan.
That's in the US.
In the US, yeah.
In the US, yeah. And she ran these meditation classes for us, and they were very successful and very good. And I benefit from them as well. Initially, it was thought that I would do the meditation classes myself, or Senga, one of the other trustees, would. But we found Deirdre, and it was great. It was something off our backs, so that was super. The most popular one by far was the hydrotherapy session. And it's interesting, isn't it? That, I think, was most popular because, I don't know, I think people were encouraged by their doctors to go to that. We part of the scheme, we had doctor referrals to the scheme as well. So doctors could refer people, and you could only go to the hydrotherapy sessions if you had a doctor's referral. And then if there was any spare spaces afterwards, then ordinary Affa Sair members could fill in the gaps. And it went really well. I think it was every Monday, if I remember.
Yeah.
And we did that, and that helped a lot of people. What else did we have? We had a new fad called Zen Tango, which is a bit like drawing patterns while meditating.
It's quite interesting. We'll put it on our social media. We'll show some people. Chris, do you have any drawings that you've done that we can share?
I may have, but I can look.
But if not, we'll show you some examples online. We'll show you some examples.
I can get some for you. It's amazing. And it was done by a lady in deepest Aberdeenshire, somewhere really near Aberdeen. So again, hundreds of miles from here. And she did this every week on Zoom, which we hosted. And it was great. People liked it. People became addicted to it. One lady in particular, she went mad for it. It's all she ever did was do these little. It's like doodling, but you make such intricate patterns using very simple strokes. Again, it becomes quite distracting and addictive.
Yeah.
Does it kind of the repetitive nature of it? Sometimes?
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Getting into like a zone and just sort of like zoning out that pain, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never heard of that.
So the lines are called tangles, and the Zen part is the
Is the Zen
Yes,
part.
yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Zen Tango.
I thought you said
Zen
Zen Tango as well.
All right.
Tango, as in.
So I was expecting you to just dance really slowly.
Yeah,
I think-
I'm not a dancing enthusiast. Fortunately, I'm physically incapable.
So, Chris, can you just tell us a bit more about the hydrotherapy? Like, what does that actually entail? What does that look like?
We're lucky in here in the town to have a hydrotherapy pool that was built by a local house builder as part of their development contributions to the area. And it's a fantastic, proper hydrotherapy pool.
Yeah.
And it has physiotherapists attached. So basically, the patient can go along to the pool, which has got very hot water in it. It's like being in a hot bath, and they can do their exercises and things in there, so they can move their body much easier in the water, and the temperature relaxes the muscles and lessens the pain. So it's it was very popular, but it's also very expensive.
That's the problem.
If you do it yourself, whereas we were able to provide this for free.
Yeah.
So it was really good, and people did lap it up.
I think one
See
thing
what
that's
you did there, Chris. Lap it up.
one thing that's quite interesting, I think. So we got the funding for this. Affa Sair got the funding for this through the Scottish Government. There were two different funding bodies at the Scottish Government who gave us grants to do this, and we're very grateful to the Section 10 and the Alliance funds for that. Now, I had my research hat on when I was sat with Chris when we were working out what to do with this scheme, and we wanted to collect some quantitative data, so that basically means effectively numbers. So we wanted to see, does people's pain level change and does their quality of life change? And basically, long story short, people don't fill in the surveys you send them, which means that it's hard to collect good data. And the data that you did collect, we basically found there was not much difference from the start to the end of the project, and we were quite disheartened really and thought this is a real shame, because people were engaging in the activities, like they were becoming more popular, people were hearing about it, it was slowly but surely growing. But then we got qualitative results, so that's what people thought, how did they feel. And I think one sticks out to both of us, Chris, and there was one individual who spoke about how they had been at a point where they'd been thinking about going to Dignitas in Switzerland to end their own life, because they had just become so kind of isolated and they were just suffering so much with their pain. And they credited this scheme with saving their life. And if anyone wants to read it, it's going to be published by the Alliance, the report on this social prescribing scheme. So you can see it, all of the sort of quotes that we had there. And it's just very interesting that, at least from our very small study, it seems like people's pain didn't necessarily get better, and the kind of broad measure of their quality of life didn't necessarily get better. But it made such a difference to people's kind of ability to cope. And so I'd be interested to know like what you guys think, and also interested for you guys at home listening. What is it that you would want? So if you could have a scheme like this in your local area, like we found some events were undersubscribed, some events people always wanted something different, we would tweak it and they would want something else, they'd tweak it and they want something else. And it was a real headache, I think, for myself, Chris, and our colleague Mark, but incredibly rewarding one. But I'm interested to know, if you were going to have a scheme in your local area where you could have activities provided for free or online activities, what would you want to see? What would help you the most with your pain, do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question.
So yeah, please let us know so that we don't have to answer this.
You still have to answer it, Don.
I remember that lady very well. Again, the social part helped her because she was incredibly ill, and it's quite humbling when you think you're as bad as you are, and then you'll meet someone you think, God, how the hell do they cope? You know,
Yeah.
it was amazing. This poor woman had to wear polythene bags of water around her joints and things so she could cushion her elbows and arms and legs and whatever against chairs, tables, what have you. You know, and she was just getting no help at all. But she didn't know, which to me is the most basic thing, she didn't know that she didn't have to go to the health centre every so often to physically pick up her prescription and then physically go to the chemist with it and get the pills given to her, and then she'd go home and sort them all out. Whereas I get what's called a Dorset box, which is full of your medication. The chemists make it up. They do all the hard work of putting in, well, you need that one at 6 o'clock and this one at 8 o'clock. They do all that for you. She had no idea about this. And that was after, I would say, 20 minutes at the first meeting in one of these crafty art therapies we did at the town hall. It just came out in discussion. You know, and she was saying, oh, you know, isn't it awful we have to go and get, you know, but no, you don't have to do that. And that changed her life that night.
Yes.
Yes. You know, it was incredible.
And that's the value, isn't it, of these social things, is it's not just about the social, it's about what you find out along the way. You might find out something that changes your chronic pain experience, you might find out something, that you find a new hobby that just changes your outlook on life, someone might suggest something that helps you to distract yourself more. Like, it's these little things that, if she hadn't come that one night, like you say, the trajectory of her whole life is different.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, from what you're saying, it sounds like there's a bit of I think some people might find it a bit more invigorating to attend these, because there's often a motivational factor to social interaction, and so seeing someone going through similar experiences to you might just help inspire you to take those extra steps when you've sometimes been neglecting them just because it's been too difficult.
Yeah. It gives you that extra kick that you need to get out the door.
Yeah. I mean, every week on the Facebook group, every day we would have interactions with each other, and every week we had a post that's called Achieved or Scunnered. For those of you that don't speak Scots, scunnered is pissed off, basically. You know, so what have you achieved this week, or what has got you scunnered? And that was very, you know, it was well attended. You know, people took part in that every week without fail, and that sort of conversations, as you say, it kind of inspired other ones to think, well, if he can do it, I'll do it. You know, I'll try it. And, you know, and just to let people know they're not on their own. I think that's the main thing. And that, to me, and I'm kind of going off topic a bit, but to me the main thing about the interaction between chronic pain sufferers is we believe each other.
Yeah.
If you're a doctor and you have a chronic pain patient, the best thing you can do for them is sit them down and say, I believe you. Once they know you actually believe them, things are a lot better for patient and doctor.
Yeah, I agree. That is something I try to bring into my practice as well. You know, specifically with symptoms that don't have a biological process.
Yeah.
That we don't know. I explain to them, like, we don't know. We know that your brain's real. We know that the pain that you're experiencing is very real, and we need to get on top of it. But I suppose you've got to manage expectations as well, haven't you, Chris?
Yes, you do.
Because
you do.
If I promise you, I'm going to give you a pill that's going to make your life 100% better, you're going to have no pain, you're going to be running up and down the stairs like you're 20 years old, like, you're going to be you're going to be very disappointed and disenfranchised almost once it doesn't work, aren't you?
Yeah. I know, it was quite funny. I had a reason to call the health centre and say, oh God, you know, this is driving me. I need some help with this. And the way it works here, it was a paramedic who answered the line and called me. Oh, don't you worry, no, we'll give you drugs for that. You know, I'll get something for you, that'll be fine. And of course, me being me, yeah, right, okay. You know, And he thought, no, don't take that attitude. No, it'll be absolutely fine. But he phoned back about 20 minutes later. He says, I've had a word with your GP and he's just told me what you do and who you are. Yeah, sorry. There was absolutely nothing they could do. But again, just being able to speak to your doctors like that is great. To have a good partnership makes a big difference.
Yeah, we was talking in the episode we've recorded today about continuity of care and having the same GP.
Yeah.
How that helps in having somebody who understands and knows your history without having to go through your notes and waste half the appointment on that.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Now, one thing that I'm kind of wanting to start to pick apart, so again, putting my research hat back on, not that I ever take it off very much, but I'm always a person who's about evidence-based care, right? I'm training to be a physio, Josh is a doctor, Don is working in psychology now, and all of us, when we have an interaction with a patient, we've got this idea of doing stuff that has an evidence base. It's like Josh doesn't cast a spell on the occasional patient to see if it works. Like he's...
I mean, you never know.
Like there's always a reason for what he's doing. And I'm interested, I think you guys have done a little bit of reading about this. What's the kind of evidence base behind social prescribing? Is there an evidence base already? What is there to support it out there?
There was one study done in 2020 that already tried to start unpicking what makes social prescribing work for people. They found that for the social prescribing to work well, the person using it or accessing it must believe it will actually do them good in the first place. It's no use going along and doing it when you think, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
You've got to have that faith, I suppose, in it going to work. You've got to go with a positive attitude. And I think most people who have been battered by chronic pain over their lives have lost that ability to believe anything will ever help them. So, yeah.
And I think that same study, thinking about that kind of having an understanding of what's going to happen, it spoke about clear and realistic expectations. So people want to know from their clinician that refers them to this scheme, they want to know what they're actually expecting to get out of it. So they don't want, again, as we spoke about already today, they don't want someone promising them the world. They want someone to go, you know what, this might not reduce your pain, but it might improve your quality of life. It might help your mental health. It might help your overall well-being, which in its own way might help you to deal with the pain better, even if it doesn't actually hurt less.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is evidence out there that this is already working. People are already getting benefit from social prescribing, as Chris has mentioned, multiple examples there. I mean, it's been shown that social prescribing can improve well-being, it can reduce anxiety, it can help to build independence, something that people with chronic pain can feel like they've lost, specifically when they've been trudging along for months, maybe even years, and felt like they've not got any help. I mean, one superb example of this is the Blackthorn Trust in Maidstone in the south of England. They provide one-to-one support for people living with long-term physical or mental health conditions and offer a 6-month programme of workshops to teach skills and reduce social isolation. These skills include gardening, craft, woodwork, cookery. That's just to name a few. There's multiple others. And we're hoping to have a chat with them, find out a bit more about what they do and have them hopefully explain what they do. Because, I mean, if that was nationwide, I think you could agree, Chris, if that was something that was nationwide, that'd massively help. I mean, it seems like you're doing your part with Affa Sair.
Yeah, I think although we were disappointed in the final outcome, I suppose, we did see how it did improve people's lives. People became friends with each other as well, going out, and that's a big thing, especially when you're so socially isolated. That lady we spoke about who wants to go to Dignitas, I know she's very friendly with 2 or 3 others now, and they go out a lot together. That makes a complete difference to your life. I think something that was rolled out, like a social prescribing scheme that would be rolled out nationally, and I do mean British nationally here. It would make a hell of a difference, and also save the cost to the NHS, which frankly, is doing nothing really for chronic pain patients. And you can see that in our Affa Sair's interaction with the Scottish Government here. It's just so difficult to get them to do anything other than talk and talk and talk. And then they all move on to a new job and you to start at the beginning again, and nothing's ever done. Yeah. Whereas, if groups like Blackthorn can run their schemes nationwide, then there is actually something for chronic pain people to go to. Have you got a poltergeist?
Sorry, there was a firework that just went off, and I think Josh may have evacuated his bowels.
Yeah, I'm fine.
They've been happening for the last hour. I don't know why you were so
That one was
surprised.
particularly loud.
And I saw the flash as well. Like it was. Yeah.
I do think though. Going back to Blackthorn, this idea of the NHS had aimed by 2024 to have 900,000 people accessing social prescribing. Now they've not released any stats on this, and I suspect it's because they failed miserably to hit that target. And I understand, I'm working within the NHS at the minute, I'm training to be a physio, and I fully intend to really only work in the public sector, not the private sector. So I'm willing to go in and try and help be a small cog in that sort of machine to help solve problems. But the NHS has these grand ideas about what to do going forward and really taking a biopsychosocial approach. But I think the problem is that's all hypothetical still. Is actually doing these things on the ground, having enough social prescribing link workers, getting people linked in with the community, having genuine high quality research to see, does social prescribing reduce healthcare utilisation? Because that was what we tried to start doing in our study, and we found that in the patients who filled out all of our questionnaires, they reduced their GP appointments by 25%. And okay, that's a very small sample size, but say you can replicate that nationally, okay, yes, the schemes may feel like they cost a lot, but if you can keep people out of that revolving door, you keep them out of the doctor's office, that can make a world of difference.
Yeah, and we've talked about, 300 million GP appointments roughly a year. What if 25% of those are chronic pain?
And then if you can get rid of 25% of that 25%, you're taking away what, like 25 million appointments? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Josh and I both looking at each other, trying to do the maths in our head and nodding to confirm that we got that right.
And I just nod away and agree.
6.25 times 4, wasn't it? So we got it right, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so I definitely agree that with social prescribing seemingly being a new concept, I think, that's being issued out, it's great to have more research in the field. And the way that we like to do our research is by getting more involved. So, we went on a photography walk, combining a passion of mine with managing our chronic pain, to see what that would do for our well-being.
So this is a couple of the activities that you might see in social prescribing schemes. You get people encouraged to take up new hobbies. So Don was taking us out with a camera, with our phones, seeing if we could get some nice pictures and getting out walking. So walking groups are a big part of a lot of social prescribing schemes. So we had a wander through a really nice woods nearby to where I'm living at the minute, and we went to a very famous ice cream shop at the top of a hill. So you can see the pictures of that on our social media.
Yeah. Also, do you know what? I'm going to release one of my favourite pictures as well.
Oh, very nice.
Which is a picture I took on a walk, I think it was about 18 months ago.
Oh, this is beautiful. You showed it to me.
So that'll be available for our Patreon viewers. If you want to make it into a card or anything, you can just send me a kickback on whatever you make. That's fine.
Yeah, there we go. So with that, we'll send you off on that segment. But just before we do, we've got to thank Chris for being on the podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure for having you. Is there anything you want to say before you go, Chris?
I want to say how much I've enjoyed this. You've let me listen to one or two other episodes, and I think it's great. So I think we need this kind of easygoing attitude. Chronic pain patients or sufferers should not be subjected to, and excuse me for saying this, boring doctors all the time, like telling what you do, and physios saying, ignore the pain, just bend that leg a bit more. We don't want to hear that. We need this sort of friendly interaction between people, and I think that would be a great thing. So yeah, best of luck to you all, and hopefully if we can do anything through the Affa Sair membership to boost your figures, we will certainly give it a go.
We'll never say no to that. Yeah. And let's get you back on the podcast again soon, yeah?
Yeah, that sounds like a
No
really good
problem.
idea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Chris.
very much, Chris.
Okay.
So yes, so please go and take a look at our social media for the pictures that we took during the walk. It was wonderful, lovely activity for a Sunday morning / afternoon, and always great to treat yourself to an ice cream afterwards.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and I think do you know what time I think it is?
It's 6:33.
Yeah.
No, I think it's book review time.
And I think it's Egyptian laxative of the week. The Egyptian laxative of this week is garlic.
Garlic.
That's gonna burn. That's all I'm gonna say.
Is it?
Is this also another enema based?
They're all suppositories, aren't they? Let's
Okay,
face it.
question. Clove or bulb?
Oh, surely.
Bulb?
The Egyptians were crazy. Surely they wouldn't bother with the...
Just a single clove.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could dose it better if it was cloves. Like 3 cloves, 4
Because
cloves.
every clove
That's
is
true,
different.
actually. Alright, 3 small cloves.
Okay.
BD. For those of you non-NHS staff, BD means twice daily. So it's like you give drugs BD.
Yeah. And PR, apparently, if you're Egyptian from circa 2,500 years ago.
And you can Google what that means yourselves. And then, yeah, let's finish off then, shall we, with our book review. So this week, it is a book called All in My Head by Paula Carman. I had the pleasure of speaking to Paula Carman back in 2020. A fact about me that is one for free. I was writing a book about my pain and about chronic pain more generally. I started out writing a little pocketbook for friends and family so I could kind of explain what it was like living with pain because I got fed up with people asking. And then that kind of spiraled and I started interviewing loads of people with pain and loads of clinicians and things and tried to make a one-stop shop for all things chronic pain. And that was a project that was going really well, got about 200 pages in, and then life got in the way and finishing the PhD got in the way. And when I came to think about restarting it, I was talking more to Josh and Don about pain, and we came up with the idea of Pain in the Podcast. So while I was writing that book, which I eventually will finish, and I hope you will all buy, I spoke to Paula, and All in My Head is a book about her chronic migraine, and really, really awful headaches. And she has tried just about everything. She's had the whole medical field thrown at her, and she is an incredibly inspiring woman and has gone on to write books, including that one, but she's also an author for a living, and she just does an amazing job at living such a fruitful and productive life despite her pain. And for anyone suffering out there from migraine or chronic headaches, like, it's definitely worth having a read, because she's just a super inspiring woman. So yeah.
Wow.
Well worth a
I
look.
think that book is genuinely on my to-read list as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's very hard to get hold of. My copy was an old library copy, and I once took it into a university library in my bag, and obviously someone who sold it online had just stolen it, because it still had the thing that makes it go off when you take it without...
Oh, was it in the spine? Like
Still had the, yeah. So I walked out of the library. I walked into the library with it in my backpack and it didn't go off. I walked out and they were like, "Have you taken one of our books?" And I was like, "I promise I haven't. I bought this from home." And then I saw the stamp in the front cover that I hadn't bothered to look at.
Was
it
it from that library?
No, it wasn't from that library. It was just from another library, and I was like, theft.
I promise I didn't steal this from this library.
Yeah, so there you go. I bought it off World of Books. Other books suppliers are available.
No, actually, World of Books is the best one. Just use that.
Abe Books, also great if you want to get some cheaper books.
Wop.
We have no affiliation links with these.
But if they want to sponsor us, and we don't have to do anything more than just say what we just said, if they'd like to retrospectively give us large amounts of money...
Actually, that's a really good idea. Like book reviews, we're reviewing. Please go buy them on Wob. Bam.
Should we go talk to Waterstones? Because I really like Waterstones.
Yeah, but they won't sell most of the books because most of these books were published in the 90s or early 2000s and weren't big print books. But they will be when all of our listeners buy them. When they get reprinted, then we'll make literally tens of pounds.
Literally tens of pounds.
Anyway, what should we tell people about before we go?
Go and find your local social prescribing activities within your community. If you would like to join them and are just apprehensive, I think they can be a really good start to you exploring other options as well. Especially all you young people out there. I think if you are someone who is quite young and is experiencing chronic pain, you can find it difficult to socialise within these certain groups. You might just think that it's just for old people. No, it's not. It's a really good way to just find some common ground with some other people, just share your experiences, have a conversation, have that sense of community, and can really work wonders. And another little side note, I work for a mental health charity, and I feel like this exact concept can work really well for individuals with poor mental health. So it's not just for people suffering from chronic pain, even though this is a podcast about chronic pain. But yeah, if you happen to experience any other conditions, these are all good ideas that might help you within the community. Yeah.
That was not what I said. That was far more profound. I was going to say we've got a Patreon and you should come give us some money. But you know what? Listen to him. Listen to him. He's got the right idea.
Truth bombs.
Yeah, exactly. Go out and find activities in your area that are affordable and accessible and tell people about them. Like, I know that when I was living in Manchester, there were free dance classes every week that were like quite light on the body, shall we say. They weren't too sort of vigorous, and I used to really, really value going to them. I know that there's loads of walking groups, there's art groups, there's like hydrotherapy groups, and a lot of these things are subsidised. So go out, have a look, tell people once you found them, and we can hopefully make something together where we can make a bit of a database of these. So if you know of any databases like that or anywhere where there's a big list of these, let us know and we can help share these with other people.
And if you'd like to join a community, feel free to join our Patreon. It does help us with recording expenses, with travelling, with making what you see here possible. As a bit of a reward to our Patreon followers, well, you hear it throughout the episodes. We do have extra content. We have extra videos, pictures. We have the 20-hour challenge, which people can look into.
You can hear Josh's recording prowess. Recording as in recordering, playing on the recorder. Recordering. Yeah. You can see my paintings. You can hear Don's beautiful prose. You get to see cooking challenges between these two. Tons of stuff. Tens of things.
Literally tens.
Okay, so with that, we will finish today's episode. So thank you for listening. We will see you in 2 more weeks. Make sure you listen to today's episode of The Breakdown. If you've got it on Patreon, you can see us have a breakdown over the recording of this episode. And yeah, we'll see you soon.